Hi, 3DMJers. This is Andrea Valdez, and you are listening to the 3D Muscle Journey podcast. Here in this episode, we're starting our second series of one-on-one coach interviews, beginning with Eric Helms. So, as it is now currently December 2016, we'd like to close out the year with some kind of state of the coach addresses, if you will. Basically, we're asking the exact same questions to each person to see where they stand through this annual change, and it's something we plan on doing every year here on the podcast. Beginning with Eric, we discuss our lives as athletes and professionals in the industry. We talk about what a typical day looks like for each coach, where they stand in their athletic journey, what their diet and training looks like right now, and if there are any major lessons learned in 2016 along the way. I'll also ask Eric about some of his coaching milestones this past year and what other professional endeavors he plans to chase in 2017. We'll then end the interviews on a personal note, discussing any other resolutions, hobbies, favorite things, and ambitions for the year ahead. So, like I said, we'll carry this on each week for the next 5 weeks with every coach getting their own time in the spotlight. Because we started our podcast with the individual 3DMJ Origins episodes that were so well received, it's really cool to hear how much we've changed in just the past few months as people. So more importantly, these episodes will carry a lot of value for the listeners in that they display how incredibly different the five of us are as athletes and as individuals. We all have different routines, we all eat differently, we all train differently, all while carrying the same core values of discipline, dedication, and desire that keep us united as the 3DMJ family. So I really hope you guys love this as much as we do, really. Here is the 2016 Coaches Spotlight episode featuring Eric Helms. Okay, so you just, like we were just talking about before we pressed record, you just got back to New Zealand. And what's great is the last podcast we kind of talked about why you were there, so they can listen to that in the episode before. But you just got back home. What are your days like here for the next, what are you going to do all day tomorrow? Would be a good example of a typical day. Let's talk about it.
I will probably be finishing up the discussion, which is the what do the results mean portion of a paper study. Looking at that I'm going to be submitting pretty soon as part of my PhD on the amount of volume that's performed when someone uses what we call in the powerlifting community a fatigue percentage, which is Mike T's idea of using kind of like an RPE stop, which is what we're going to call it in the paper, to figure out how much volume you performed. So kind of looking at all the differences between the lifts and the goal for the day, whether it was a hypertrophy day, a power day, or a strength day, and then, statistically analyzing the difference in volume performed, and then, trying to express in some kind of understandable way to the practitioner or fellow researcher or just someone interested in science reading about it, what those differences mean and why they might have been the way they were.
Okay.
So, yeah, I've got only some coaching that I let myself do at this stage just because I really need to buckle down to the PhD. For those listening, I've had my coaching come down from a high of, 40-ish, 45-ish week-to-week reporting athletes, and say 3 Skype calls a week with non-weekly clients reporting in and Skyping with them back in 2012 and 2013 to now I have 4 clients who report weekly, and then I do maybe 3 Skypes a month. So that has been huge, nice thing to be able to do to allow me to actually get my PhD done. So my days it's almost rare when I have to do write a program or Skype with someone. That happens, I write programs maybe at once every 4 weeks now, and I Skype with every other week maybe. And then I, answer emails between them. So now it's really just been trying to focus on the PhD and get that stuff done.
Right. And is that all day? Do you pretty much, unless you have that rare client report, you just at your desk doing writer things, academic things?
For the most part, yeah.
Okay.
This is actually a big change for me because for the last, I discussed when Zerdos was on, I was in the lab 50 hours a week and barely had much time to write. I was only writing towards the last I would say 3 weeks of the 10-week stint I had in Florida, just because I was so burned out. So I was just
Right.
kind of getting bare minimum done with, life, and then collecting data, and then now that all that data is collected, though, now I'm transitioning into becoming, that's kind of the way PhDs go. Like, you'll have these very, very kind of desolate times where you need to be doing things, but you can't, because you simply just don't have the participants or whatever. So you have to work on something else. So like managing your energy and managing your time, and then making sure you kind of keep a big picture in the back of your head perspective of the overall timeline is hard to do, but what you have to do to complete a PhD. So I'm now in a big transition towards writing and analyzing.
Right.
So it's a lot of time at my desk, and I look up and it'll be 4 hours have gone by, and I've been in Excel the whole time, which I don't necessarily mind, because it's, for me, the hard part is, this is going to sound weird, working with people in a research environment. Not that I'm not a people person, I'm an extrovert, I like people, and that's really the whole reason of doing it. But at the same time, in research, you're trying to create such a controlled environment, and someone accidentally misloading the bar, or doing an extra rep, or forgetting to hit start on their rest timer, or someone coming in 30 minutes late, so that the next group of participants are all needing to be there at the same time, and they have to go to work, and we don't have enough racks. Like, all of those things are kind of like this low-grade stressor that's always there.
Yeah.
Or like the person who's supposed to help you in the lab today, is sick or on vacation, and you have to figure out how to make it all work. So all of those things are stressor to me, because they're not under my direct control. But once I have all the data, I know what I want to say, then it's just write and analyze, and that I'm a lot better at that as far as managing my energy and being a consistent worker with.
Word. Whenever you, like, before you went to Florida, like, say that last semester that you were there in New Zealand consistently, what, like, times day by day were you like, okay, I wake up at this time and I do this from this time and I do this at night and then I train, and then, like, we'll end the typical day exercise with that, if you could average out a day for you in New Zealand in that last, like, full semester you were there.
Sure. So I would get up around 8 a.m. and then sometimes around 7. So sometime between 7 and 8 a.m. I'd wake up, and I would bang out my client work and 3DMJ work in the morning before I went to AUT, or my university. So that would normally be, sometimes it'd be 10 minutes. Like, it would be a non-client reporting day, and I have a question or just an email from somebody random in my thing, or just I need to respond to the Slack channel where all of us coaches are talking.
Yeah.
And then I just, get ready and leave. Other days it might be I have a Skype at 8, and then that Skype results in I have to write a program. That was kind of like this morning, actually. I had a Skype at 8 with a longtime client of mine, working on his off-season program for his powerlifting meet. And then, so finish the Skype a little before 9, and then finish the program, 30, 40 minutes later, bang it into Excel. And I got here, a little before lunch, had lunch, had a meeting, and then cracked into my PhD work. So yeah, typical day is 1 to 3 hours at most, and that's rare, starting between 7 and 8 a.m. of 3D and J work. I'll have freaking Quest bars for breakfast. I don't eat a whole lot in the morning. And then I head to Millennium on most days, which is the AUT campus I'm at, which has all the sporting stuff.
Such a great name. That's a great name.
Yeah, I love it too. It's AUT Millennium. It's cool stuff. It sounds like
Okay.
sounds like life-changing things happened here, and so.
Okay, so we get to the Millennium Falcon, and then we.
Right. So I'm there, with my Wookiee buddy on Millennium Falcon, and so I have lunch, take a little break, and then start. Well, depending on how late I get there. If I get there at like 9, then I'll work for 3 hours, then have lunch. If I get there closer to 11, then I'm not going to dive into anything. I'll screw around for 30 minutes, catching up on social media, and then have lunch, because I don't want to start something that's going to take me 3 hours when I only have, an hour before I'm going to eat lunch anyway.
So do you purposefully, I'm going to interrupt you, you're like, my lunch is at noon. Is that how it goes?
Yeah, I do tend to try to eat my lunch at noon, because if I start working and don't think about it, I'll look up and it'll be like 2:45, and then I need to get 2 more meals in because I train 5 days a week. And if I have a big session and I forget to eat until too late, then the train gets backed up and I bonk a little early in my training.
Okay.
So, yeah. So anyway, I try to get some food in at noon, and then I crack back into it. I will typically train probably like 4 days out of the week with my wife. She will most of the time come to Millennium, or it might be on our mutual off day. Then we'll go to a different gym closer to our place. Mm-hmm. But probably 3 to 4 days per week, I'm training at AT Millennium. I just go downstairs and train in the Olympic lifting gym, which I've been a part of for a long time.
So cool.
And if it's one of Barb's training days, I train 1 to 2 more days than her typically per week. If it's a day I train on my own, I'll do that anytime between 4 to 5. If it's a day she's getting off work, it'll be closer to like 5:30 when she gets through traffic and everything and gets off work. And I'll try to eat a smaller little snack like a banana and another Quest bar, hour and a half, 2 hours before I go down and train.
Word. And what do you do at night when you're done training?
We watch shows and eat a lot of food, and that's about it.
What shows? I need to know.
Let's see. We just finished Narcos season 2.
Right. Incredible. Wait, season 2?
Yeah, bro.
When did that come out?
Recently.
Okay. See, we're behind now. This is what this interview is all about.
See? Knowing what shows.
I got to go watch Narcos now. See you later. Yeah. No, okay. What else?
Let's see. Walking Dead. Let's see. Game of Thrones when that comes out. What else are we watching?
We watch a lot of shows and eat a lot of food. That's good.
That's basically it. Once I get home from training, I'm done for the day. Okay. I don't work at night. I don't even really log on my computer and check emails or anything like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I have my day very, very partitioned. So once Barb gets off work and I get off work and we get done training, then, we hang out and just do our thing and eat dinner and, spend time together until one of us is near ready to pass out at 10 p.m.
At 10?
So we get up at 7, or she gets up like 6:30 for work, and I naturally wake up around 7:30.
Okay. So you get a good amount of sleep. Consistent times, all that stuff. Okay.
Sometimes I pop up in the middle of the night. That's frustrating. Like, I don't have a problem falling asleep if I'm training and working hard. If I'm understimulated, then I can't fall asleep, I've found.
Samesies.
But especially on days when I train, I'm typically missing the last 30 minutes of whatever the last episode of what we watched because I passed out on the couch.
Damn it.
And then Barb gets mad at me. She has to tell me what happened. And then so I have like my memories of each show we watch are like every third episode I'll remember half of it, and then Barb telling me what happened.
So what are you training for now? So let's talk about you as an athlete, right? So that's your typical day. Mm-hmm. Will you train how many days a week, and what are the 6-month goals, I guess?
Sure. I train typically 5 or 6 days a week. Okay. And that depends on how much volume I'm trying to get in based on the phase of my training and just my schedule. I have not historically always been able to train 5 to 6 days per week, but that's been like that since probably January when I finished my big data collection here. Right. I was able to train 5 or 6 days a week in Florida because I literally lived in the lab, and there was no, I didn't have a wife while I was there with me.
Did you hear that, Barb? Did you hear that?
Yeah. It's in Florida, unmarried, well, not exactly, but. Yeah.
I lost my ring for a few weeks. I don't know what happened. Yeah.
Exactly. But now being in Florida, it was like, my room at the extended stay, pretty boring. I would only be there if I had like a team meeting or a Skype interview I had to do. The rest of the time, I'd just stay in the lab and then train between participants. So I was still able to keep that training frequency up. So anyway, I still very much train like someone who is going to make his pro debut in natural bodybuilding sometime in the next 2 years. Okay. And also someone who is very interested in being as strong as possible. I didn't say powerlifter just because my hip doesn't allow me to do back squats at the moment. So I've been really just pumping the front squats hard. So basically I train like a powerlifter who thinks that you're allowed to do front squats in place of back squat.
What is the deal with the hip?
Work. Oh, so I have what's called FAI, femoral acetabular impingement. So that's the femur with a thigh bone and the acetabulum, or your pelvis, your hip. And just through my genetic shape of my femurs and my hip socket, and through, I guess I got diagnosed in 2013, so about 10 years of training, and heavy and to depth, and especially when I got accelerated, but when I did Olympic lifting, which added even more depth and then a high velocity component to the catch. Mm-hmm. Essentially, my femur started to contact my acetabulum.
Oh, okay.
Right, so it's basically an impingement, a bony impingement. I couldn't really tell what was exactly happening at first, so I was trying to physio it away and do all kinds of rehab and stretching and releasing and a bunch of stuff that at best was kind of like, building a sand wall against the tide. It just kept getting worse again. And when I finally suspected it was FAI and got it diagnosed and found out that it was through MRI and X-ray and manual, basically diagnosis by orthopedic surgeon, then I just stopped squatting to depth, and instantly my pain went away, within a week and a half of not squatting to depth, and made me realize just how much time and energy I'd wasted trying to physio away a bone. So, yeah. So basically the only thing I can't do is do back squats to depth. I can go slightly deeper with a high bar, but I can actually hit depth and almost go full depth with the front squat. And that's just because you can imagine with a more upright back angle, then there's less of a severe hip angle. So right. I can get to depth while staying more upright. So yeah, for a while I did, like I said, I got diagnosed in end of 2013, and I've still done a bunch of meets since then. And I was getting around it by just back squatting the 2 to 3 weeks prior to each meet. But I found that the time period I could do that without pain and without damaging my hip became less each meet. Mm-hmm. And the last time I only squatted 3 times to depth. And this strategy is working for maintaining my strength. I squatted 222.5 kilos or 491 right around the time I originally got diagnosed with a hip injury. Mm-hmm. And that has since been the highest amount I've done in a comp. And I did 225 or 495 pounds in training. So basically there's been zero improvement for 3 years in my squat, just because I can't do it enough and with the weight and right. with the right movement pattern that I need to make it progress. And I've tried, box squatting 3 times a week and front squatting once or twice. And I think I'm kind of capped out. So I've decided I am going to get surgery on that to get it fixed. And that'll probably delay when I'm going to get on stage for bodybuilding as well. I could just abandon powerlifting, mm-hmm. and I think I'd be fine. Right now, I think my legs are the best they've ever been because I've just totally given up on box squats and back squats and just done front squats. Mm-hmm. And I think I would have a high 300 1RM on front squats, which is pretty good for me. And I've gotten a lot of development in my lower body since doing that, which has been great. So from a bodybuilding perspective, it's really just how creative do I want to be. But I just love powerlifting, and I want to back squat again. I want to hit that 500-pound mark. So for me, surgery and being out for 3 months is worth it if I can,
That's not bad. 3 months?
No, it's not. Some people take long.
What would the
6 months?
Okay. What would the surgery even be? Pad it, make a fake bursa? What would they?
No. So I have a minor labrum tear as well, which they just repair as they go in there. But what they do is they actually make a 3D model of your hip joint. Okay. Not just digital, not actually they don't print it out or anything like that.
Yeah.
And then they determine how to reshape your femur so that there'll be less contact. And then depending on the damage that was that occurred in the process of noticing you had an impingement before you finally went to a doctor, they may have to go in there, repair your labrum, and they may have to shave off what's called cam or pincer spurs. So essentially, if you think of a cam and a pincer, you've got the pincer is the lip of the acetabulum, and the cam, if you're thinking of mechanical object, is the femur. So that contact of cam and pincer hitting each other creates additional bone growth. Mm-hmm. Per Wolf's law. If you smack a bone, it grows more bone. To defend itself.
So just shave it down so it misses each other. Right. Okay.
So I've got spurs on both my femur and my acetabulum. So they'd shave those off, they'd go in, they'd repair the labrum, and then they'd reshape the actual the femur so that it wouldn't occur again, theoretically.
Okay.
And since it's been 3 years since I originally got diagnosed, I did not get the surgery back then for primarily financial reasons and because I felt like I could work around it.
Okay.
I'm in a better financial position now to get the surgery, and I can tell that working around it has, like I said, it's done well to maintain my squat strength, but not to improve it. So I'm going to go ahead and get that process done. But yeah, so they'll shave, reshape, repair, and then we'll be basically 6 weeks until I can really do any lower body training.
Okay.
And then typically it's 3 months, best case scenario, before your old levels of performance are back, sometimes up to 6 months.
That's still honestly, so fast.
I would agree. Yeah. It's because they just go in.
Orthoscopic.
It's like orthoscopically, exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow.
And the main reason you have to take time off is because obviously they've done a bunch of shit to your bone, mm-hmm. and they need it not to have a bunch of. It needs to not be load bearing for a certain period of time so that those changes take shape, literally.
Literally. Wow. When are you thinking of that? Just as soon as you graduate?
That's the thing. I'm probably gonna. There's a waiting list. I have the benefit of being like the Millennium Institute. AUT Millennium is a big sporting complex with a lot of top people here in New Zealand. So one of the best hip surgeons, not just in New Zealand, but probably in the world, is actually just downstairs.
Oh. And well, that's convenient.
Yeah, it's good. And I'm hoping I won't have to go through the whole waiting list again, because I went all the way to the point where my surgery was scheduled before I had to turn it down because I couldn't get the insurance coverage. But so since I went through that whole process before, I'm hoping that I can, explain to them my situation, let them know I'm paying out of pocket, and jump to the front of the line a little bit so I don't have to wait 3 months. So I'm hoping actually as soon as possible. I'd like to get it done not too far from now, or it'll kind of get in the way of traveling. Like, I don't want to be hobbling around while we're in
Australia,
whatever 3DMJ shit we're doing. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah. So that, I know you say you love powerlifting, but obviously the powerlifting won't come till after the surgery, but neither will the bodybuilding too, it sounds like, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I think the bodybuilding will bounce back really quick. Like powerlifting, obviously, I would have to start completely over with my squat and my deadlift, mm-hmm. In the sense of, with the weight on the bar. Now, granted, the rate of progress would be huge and fast, and faster than even when I first started. And I'd probably, like I said, within 3 to 6 months be back to, squatting nearly 500 and deadlifting 550. But honestly, with bodybuilding, as soon as I'm at that 6 week mark, I can start doing like occluded leg extensions and leg curls and stuff like that. I could probably even start doing that before the 6 week mark, because I'm not actually loading the hip if I do isolation stuff. So I might have some glute atrophy that would last longer, because there's not a lot of hip extension I can do without loading the hip. Yeah. Maybe like banded, some kind of hip thrust with bands or something like that. So I'm pretty confident I can find a way to lose minimal mass during that process between like occlusion, horizontal loading with bands, that type of thing. So once I'm actually kind of out of the danger zone and, I've taken, probably a full 2 weeks off from any type of training, then I'll be hitting my upper body like a champ and doing what I can for the lower body.
Word.
I've even thought about getting an EMS unit.
A little shocker?
Electrostim.
Yeah. Okay. I thought about that too. Yeah. For recovery, though, more so than...
Yeah, but there's actually some studies showing they can induce hypertrophy. Obviously not as much compared to actual resistance training. But if I can't resistance train, that wouldn't be a bad idea. So. Yeah.
I remember Jeremy was saying that there's studies that show that BFR on a bike can induce hypertrophy if you're that untrained. Mm-hmm. That's just crazy to me. Anyways, so what's your nutrition like? I mean, training, it's like, okay, progressive overload, primarily like a powerlifter. However, we front squat instead of back squat, and it's decently...
And I get a lot more volume on my upper body compared to my lower. That's another thing I should have mentioned in that. Okay. Because I've always had because I always had legs that tend to grow pretty well. I've had, like, my hamstrings from the side are pretty meaty. My quads are pretty big. But getting lats, delts, chest, all that stuff. Actually, my chest has always grown. But anyway, I think due to my frame, and then also just it seems like the actual rate of muscle growth themselves, my upper body, needs a lot more work to keep me symmetrical. So I bench 5 to 6 days a week. I overhead press twice a week. I do chins or lat pull downs 3 days a week. I do some form of row 2 times a week. And yeah, and not a whole lot of direct work. So.
Yeah, I think it wasn't too long ago you were saying you're like, I do like 6 movements, maybe 9.
Yeah.
And that was it all the time.
Pretty much, yeah. So I do, I do bench rows, or seal rows as the kids call it. I do overhead press, chins, lat pull downs, calf raises, front squat, bench deadlift, and hamstring curl when I have access to it, which I do now again. I didn't while I was in Florida. I did some like Nordic hamstring eccentrics.
Okay.
And that is pretty much it. Occasionally I'll throw a lateral raise or a tricep push down in there, but I don't notice I get a whole lot out of that if I'm doing a high volume of pressing and pulling.
Cool. And we're like full body, like we're mixing things, mix and matching. You don't have like upper lower day even.
I don't even think of it that way. I think of how much volume do I need to get in per body part? What are the movements that I want to use that to get? What's the undulation pattern, the rate of progression? And then I just figure out the best way to piece it together to facilitate recovery. So it ends up being full body most of the time, or occasionally an upper session if I don't have a deadlift or a front squat to do.
Yeah.
So occasionally it'll be an upper body, but it's not on purpose necessarily.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Talk about. We've never publicly talked about your eating choices, have we? Have you?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I probably have.
Publicly? Because everyone we're around, every time they see you order a veggie burger, freaks the F out.
Yeah,
and it's
out,
fun.
Yeah.
It's fun every time. I like being around it.
That's good stuff. Yeah. So I don't even describe myself as a vegetarian necessarily. I call myself probably a reducitarian, or someone who eats along my ethical beliefs, I think is probably the way I do it. So I just don't like to support factory farming. That's probably the easiest way to say it.
Yeah.
And what that results in is that I eat fish and like a lacto-ovo vegetarian most of the time. So that's, not that I buy it at home, but when I'm out, I'll eat, eggs, and then large component of my diet is certainly dairy. There's only so much you can limit and do, and still, be able to function in society and not be that guy who's like ordering fucking like an asshole every time the waitress comes around and being annoying to all the friends and ruining get-togethers. So yeah, I like to keep it pretty low key, because most of the time, if someone hears you're a vegetarian or whatever, or you eat ethically, or whatever label people put on it, all of a sudden they assume all these things. Like what I frequently. The main reason I don't discuss it publicly a lot is people assume that that if you're a vegetarian or something similar, you think it's better for your health, or you think it's,
trendy
for all these exactly. And I've been doing it before it was trendy. Basically I'm a hipster, right? And and most importantly, I don't think it's better for my health. It is literally just because I don't want to put my money into organizations that don't treat animals in a ethical way. Which is my own personal ethics code. So I don't try to put on other people. I don't, people ask me about it. I'll talk to them about it. And I have been randomly debated. Like I'm not even like people are like, oh, so what do you eat? And I'm like, just veggie burger. And then they're like, what you don't like meat? You got some problem with that? And then they end up debating me and losing because I'm smarter than them. But
and I just like pull up my popcorn. And I'm like, yeah, let's hear it. Go ahead, Eric. This guy's never seen it. Go ahead.
But I never challenge people. Like I don't. So anyway, but since like 2011, I made that decision. Yeah. I don't even know if I would have made that decision if I'd been living in New Zealand the whole time, because there's a lot less inhumane treatment of animals here in the way that they're cared for, and their journey to death. But
we can kill them. We just got to be nice about it.
Right. Yeah. But so anyway.
The point is that I think I like it because, again, you as a protein researcher is when everyone freaks out,
Yep.
It just breaks the conventional wisdom that I like it. I like telling people about it. I like how you said you don't like it, but I'm like, let's tell them, Eric. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. With the people who are willing to listen to a whole podcast are not going to be the ones who respond to it like as if you make an Instagram post like, here I am with my veggie burger, hashtag pescatarian. That would not go well.
Yeah. And therefore, your protein intake is not hard to get in, but you've had to make a lot of adjustments.
I definitely eat differently now. Yeah, like if you were to look at my prep, say in 2009, I was eating probably 3 chicken breasts a day, and then mixing that with turkey breasts and then Greek yogurt. Mm-hmm. And in the States, it's easier too. Like there was a few days in the States in 2010 before I decided to go, I'll say reducitarian, when I accidentally didn't eat meat for a whole day. Like, I had a protein cake that was back when, we were big on the protein cakes. I had like a Greek yogurt, and then, like I did that, and then like an egg white omelet or something like that. And I looked up at the end of the day and like a whey protein shake at post workout. And I was like, wait a minute, I just got in 225 grams of protein. I didn't have any meat. So I was like, is this really that big of a deal? Like, 'cause I was playing around with the idea. I didn't really like some of the things I knew about the meat industry. So yeah, easy to do in the States. In New Zealand, there's like just all the same foods here. It's just in much less variety and flexibility. So there's one brand that I know of that has kind of like, Faye or Chobani type of macros for Greek yogurt, which I do eat, of course. Mm-hmm. And then, I'm not a big whey consumer. It's 'cause I don't know. I got burned out on whey cakes and stuff like that. So like these days, I'm not cooking with whey. That's kind of more of a prep thing, I find. But what I have 2 Quest bars a day. One is a snack and one is breakfast. I have a scoop of whey, a large scoop of whey post workout typically. Then I have a big thing of Greek yogurt daily. And then for dinner, we're typically having something that has a good touch of dairy in it, like, mac and cheese or like, pizza, veggie pizza type thing. Or if we eat out, I'll get fish. And then through all of that, I end up getting at least my, 0.8 grams per pound of protein in per day. Although I do have to think about it. It's something I have to make more of an effort to actually hit these days than I used to. Back in my broy bro.
The bro days.
Yeah, always 250 plus in terms of protein, and many animals.
Yeah, talk to us about like your approximate on average-ish calories and macro breakdowns as you like the past year maybe that you could think of, unless they've changed drastically lately. But
I don't think they have. There was a period where I was just eating a lot more, just because I still actually am eating more than I was kind of my maintenance. And now I'm 5 kilos heavier than that, so I maintain on higher food levels. That's 11 pounds for you Americans. So anyway, I would hold right around like 205, which I did for a few years and compete at the top of the 93 kilo weight class, eating about 2,800 calories a day to maybe 3,200, that kind of range. And that looked like about 180 grams of protein. Let's see. We'll just say for ease, 125 grams of protein, and then about maybe 400 grams of carbs. Mm-hmm. So what's that? 1,600. Yeah, and then like maybe anywhere from 60 to 100 grams of fat per day.
Okay.
And plus or minus, 100 grams on those carbs depending on the day. But yeah, so that was kind of where I was. These days, if you just add about 10% to all those numbers, that's about where my intakes are. And I do a lot of very intuitive eating these days. I don't track my macros. I just make sure I hit my protein intake and that my weight is doing what I want it to, which I'm trying to get up to 100. It was difficult in Florida because I was so active. Like when I say 50 hours in the lab, that's not sitting in front of a petri dish. That's a powerlifting lab, which means it's basically me loading plates all day. It's like a powerlifting meet fucking 5 days a week. So so me in a lab, I got elbow tendonitis and lost 3 kilos within 6 weeks of being in Florida.
He's not kidding. He literally did get literally had some elbow problems.
Yeah, I could only do calf raises, hamstring curls, or the Nordics that I was doing, front squats, good mornings, and like occluded push-ups for like a week and a half. That's all I could do while I let it heal up. But anyway, So yeah, I got a PhD related injury. But then once we got past the bulk of participants and we only had a few left who were doing the study, then my eating habits enabled me to gain weight again. And now I'm probably up to like 97, 98 kilos, which is, I think, about 215, 216.
Okay.
And I'm trying to get up to like 220 or 100 kilos.
By
I'm not trying to rush it too much because like I put on some good quality size getting up to 97, 98. Like I look at 97, 98, I look about the same level of leanness that I did a year and a half ago at 93, maybe 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been kind of hardening up as I've been pushing it and pushing the volume up with it. I also couldn't do as much volume of training. I mentioned that in January I really started kicking my volume up. Before that, I was doing a lot of data collection. I just couldn't train because I was on the road so much traveling to do it. So anyway, now that I can eat as much as I need to eat and train as much as I need to train, I'm finding I can make 98 or 215, 216 look pretty good. And I want to move up to the 105s, which, because right now it's too much of a pain in the ass to cut from 97, 98 to 93. I did that at my last meet and I performed well, but I passed out on my last deadlift.
Which is a problem.
Yeah, not ideal, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I just couldn't fully rehydrate and re-electrolyte before I had to compete in the 2-hour time frame. And it was cutting more than I even recommend for people. Like 4% is typically the max, and I cut like 5%.
Okay.
You know?
So what's long-term, like, okay, 6 months, it would be heal up the hit, continue to get jacked up about 5-10 more pounds in the next 6 months or so-ish, slowly.
4 pounds.
Okay, 4 pounds. Won't that put you at the bottom of your weight class?
No, so I'll be at 100. I have no problem competing in the 105s at 100.
Okay.
If I get the 105, I don't think I can pull that off without looking like I look like a lineman, not a bodybuilder. You know.
Okay.
So.
Okay. What about, I guess, long term? You still haven't made your pro debut.
Correct. So we're looking with the hip surgery and with pushing myself up to 100 and then thinking about how long it takes me to get lean, which is not a short period of time.
And it might be so different now. Like in a good way.
Hopefully. I'm certainly not gonna, I'm gonna plan a 6-month prep because it might be better. No, I'm still gonna give myself like 8 to 10 months to get in shape. So yeah, if we're looking at a minimum 8-month diet before I do my first show, and I want to be fully recovered from the hip and then surpass where I am now slightly, we're not going to be getting on stage until 2018, realistically.
Okay. At the earliest or like for sure?
Earliest.
Okay. All right.
I can't say for sure because I've also met some people who've, at the 6-month mark, their hip is still not fully doing what they want it to do. So I have to kind of allow for the unknowns.
Okay. And
I'm in no rush. I'm in a different mindset these days than I was in 2009, 2010, 2011. I was gunning for the pro card so hard, and now I'm definitely want to get back on stage and really just see what can I do with 14, 15 years under my belt and doing everything as right as I know it can be done, and with lots of time to prepare and see me more in my peak, like my mid 30s to late 30s, where most bodybuilders tend to peak, to see where what I can do, or at least preferably I should say the beginning of my peak.
Yeah. And so you just know so much more now after coaching so many athletes. Like, I feel like I know so much more this year of 3DMJ. Like, having just the variety of experiences besides just myself.
Yeah, not only that, I also think I actually have the maturity now. Because 3DMJ has been around for, like over 6 years now. 7 years now, yeah, exactly. And I think I made leaps and bounds in my knowledge, but I it took me a while, probably until 2013, 2014, before I had the maturity to really apply all those lessons to myself without getting impatient or think I'm a special snowflake or just kind of ignore my own advice. So I'm the auto-regulation guy, but I've only recently been able to auto-regulate my training effectively without that turning into injury. So,
so that said, you will, when you say apply it to myself, do you plan on kind of running your own show and just asking us other coaches for like random benchmarks? How's it going? Or are you going to be like, hey, Jeff, prep me? Or like, how do you want to do it?
I think it'll be probably in 2011. I basically was like, handle my shit. Here's my starting plan, and you guys make all the changes.
You
I
guys
think
collectively or one?
I want to say Berto was my primary
Okay.
because he's most familiar with my body fat loss tendencies and my kind of metabolic, or probably better to say like energy expenditure trends.
Right.
What my numbers have to be to get me to lose and how much cardio I have to do and how I respond to that stuff. Because he basically prepped me for a good chunk of 2009. Once I was finished working with Lane, he kind of handled the end of it, and he was there the whole time. So, yeah, I think I'm going to probably take the reins of my training.
Okay.
Just because I feel very confident in what I have been doing, and I've been doing my own training now for like 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
It was done up until 2013 or 2014 by Adam,
Right.
my old Olympic coach, and that was great, and I learned a lot from that. And now that I'm in a position where I'm comfortable and, more importantly, mature enough to do my own training, so I'll probably keep the reins in my training, and then I think I know where I want to start with nutrition in terms of the overall structure, but I will probably get approval before making any kind of cuts. So what I'll probably do is just report in to the team and be like, here's what I'm seeing, here's how I'm feeling, and I want to cut X, Y, Z here, and here, and then they'll either go stop being crazy or approved kind of thing. So I think I just need basically an approval committee that I keep myself listening to.
Right.
And there may be, and for all I know, there may be a point where I just need to hand it over completely, just so I don't have to think about it.
Yeah. Cool.
I can be a pretty good soldier if I trust the person, and I do trust, our team 100%. So.
Cool. What'd you learn this year as a coach?
So much. Man.
Let's name a few, 3 or 4 at least.
Okay. Well, since my brain has been on sciencey PhD related topics and training so much, I would say I've definitely in the last year learned how to incorporate autoregulation into periodized plans in a better way.
Okay.
And kind of combine those concepts a little more instead of looking at either you're someone who can benefit from it or not, but more how they can flow into each other one a little bit better. Okay. And let's see, I've also kind of learned more reliable ways to peak performance in people in terms of programming. Okay. And how much to err on the side of over or under recovery with certain athletes, and kind of what I know will pick up and show that. Big one I've learned is how to pace contest preps. I'd say that's more over like the last 2 years, but in the last 2 years we've really started to play with diet breaks more often, 48-hour refeeds, 3 refeeds per week, that kind of thing. And now that I've had enough people go through that process, I'm kind of pretty comfortable with like the procedures of where I want to space my diet breaks, how I'm going to go from 1 to 2 to maybe even 3 refeeds per week, how to space that out, and then how to get the reporting timeframes and pieces I need from my athletes to tell if that's working, to get that going. So I would say diet periodization has been a big thing that I've learned, and which non-quantitative variables are most important to listen to on that. Like, I think the thing that triggers me to do diet breaks most often now is just how much the person's struggling. And I would say my old knee-jerk response was, once someone's starting to plateau and that they're feeling beat up and they're frustrated by it, is, okay, we need to make a cut. And now my knee-jerk response when someone's plateauing and starting to struggle mentally and, because actually on the scale, is to do a diet break. So very polar opposite responses. And subsequently, I've had to learn how to deliver that message to the athlete, because their knee-jerk response is also, we need to push harder, And the last thing they think they need when their scale is stalled, like, oh, my deficit disappeared, my energy expenditure's gone down, I obviously need to cut my calories. And I go, yeah, we're going to increase your calories. They typically flip out. So I'm now I'm used to delivering that message, and I know and can anticipate the response and the why and the how, and I don't and I handle that better, and I think I communicated better. So yeah.
Cool. And your coaching isn't gonna, like you said, you cut it down like crazy, at least to get through the PhD. But when you are graduated and a doctor, what are the plans after that?
I'm
Like
gonna look to see how
when
I
is
feel.
that? When is it? It's not
Right.
this coming semester, is it?
Yeah,
January.
you're not on a semester system at this for research degrees in New
Okay.
Zealand. We just basically get it done when you get it done, and then you find examiners and you send off your stuff. So I have a submission date of the 31st of March.
Okay.
There's some wiggle room around that. Like if you submit it like 2 weeks later, mid-April, you don't get shot or anything like that. They just stab you. So yeah, I'll probably submit my thesis sometime in April if I had to guess.
Okay.
And then what happens is that goes out to 3 external examiners. So people, at least 2 external, one can be internal at AUT. And then they will spend a long time. It can be 3 to sometimes 6 months before they actually get you their examination of your thesis back. And then within 2 weeks of that, you're scheduling your oral defense, where they're on Skype or in person if there is an internal, and then you are for 1 to sometimes as long as 3 hours talking about your research and the whys and the hows and the whats and what it all means. And then you get a grade right after that, and then you have to make the required revisions to your PhD, assuming you passed,
Right.
and then lodge it within a certain amount of time after that, and then you graduate the next July or December that's closest to when you get it finished. So I will be probably unofficially a doctor mid next year after my defense, and then officially a doctor by December when I graduate of next year.
Awesome. What do you do in the meantime? Like when you're like, all right, here's this, I'm just going to hang out for 3 months. Is that really how it goes?
Yeah, personally, I'll be doing whatever the hell I want and not worry about it. There are probably some things I would do, because so for example, if at AUT you do what's called thesis by publication. So all of your chapters except for your introduction and conclusion are typically standalone publications.
Oh, weird.
Yeah.
Okay.
Rather than the typical format of just having introduction, literature review, methods, results, discussion. I might have a published literature review as my literature review. Huh. And then I have a series of cross-sectional and longitudinal studies, and then the conclusion would be based on, well, here's the findings in all these other studies. So yeah, there may be, based on the timeline, what typically happens is you'll finish a chapter, which is also a publication you'll submit. You put it into your thesis and you'll send it off, and then it'll get either rejected or accepted with minor and major revisions, and you might go 3 months before you can finish those revisions and it gets published. And then you take the final version ahead of print and put that back in your thesis. So it's a better version of what you originally put in there. So by the time you submit, you typically have the first third to half of your thesis, published, and the final version is in it. And then the last third to half, or 2/3 to half, are in their not peer-reviewed form yet.
Okay.
So you will get stuff from your examiners on the thesis itself, and then you're probably submitting articles for publication. So you'll end up getting peer review and examiner's review on that stuff at the end.
People shitting on your work for the next year, basically.
Correct. Exactly.
Nice. But also, no, once you do that, too, will be a new edition of the Pyramids.
That's true.
Also,
yep.
That's next year.
Yep. So that will probably become my primary focus once I've actually submitted my thesis, which will be in April. Then we'll try to get out the next edition of the Pyramids mid next year. That's what we have planned, right?
Yeah, that is what we have planned.
Cool.
I was going to say, well, what about a 5-year-old? Is there something that you're and when that's done, I have this big monkey on my back that I want to tackle, or no?
I think the next monkey on my back is actually making my pro debut, which would be 2018.
Okay.
So
that's awesome. You get to devote life to it because the Pyramids have been such a blessing. Yeah.
Now, I actually want to pull an Andrea and go back to being more of an athlete after I'm done with my education and stuff like that. I know how to be very efficient with the things I do now. So the research work that I will be staying in, I'm going to try to stay associated with AUT in some capacity and work with master's and PhD students who are studying in my meatheady area.
Mm-hmm.
I can devote time to that without it really taking too much from me. I'm still going to be generating content like the pyramids or generating courses for some nutrition institutes here, et cetera, et cetera. The SBS Academy, all that stuff. I want to continue to produce content via those avenues, and of course, all of our 3DMJ content.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that'll take that much time from me. So that means I'm going to probably be training, 5 to 6 days a week and taking my nutrition, probably with a little more emphasis on certain things, like ensuring I get, calories and protein in.
You could own the chickens that lay the eggs that you eat. You could have a goat farm or like a couple cows. We should talk about this.
Besides the fact that we live in a nice apartment in the city, yes. We need to buy the roof. Yeah.
You could buy an acre. Just an acre.
That's right.
That's all you need.
Just on the roof. And then if chicken gets blown off the roof,
then you'll have all the friendly meats you'd like. I'm just saying, if you wanted. You could invest in bodybuilding farms it's another venture we'll talk about.
Yeah,
anyways, we'll work on that. Yeah. Okay, so for funsies, we have 3 more questions. For funsies, what do you do besides watch shows and eat food? What are your hobbies?
Most of it.
That's most of it? Well, that's true. They're pretty nice things.
I really enjoy traveling. So obviously, I travel a fair bit to speak at conferences and, for data collection and shit like that. But I always try to emphasize getting out and seeing stuff locally here in New Zealand, and then in whatever area we're in. When we do a conference, I like to see the area. Pretty social dude as well. I like to hang out with my friends, and so that's something what I do a couple times a week. We have a good group of friends here in New Zealand, and back when I lived in California, same kind of way. I read a whole bunch of science fiction and fantasy. So
what's your favorite?
There's so many. Well, between the two?
No, one of each.
A book from each.
Yes.
Okay. I would say probably my favorite fantasy would be the Lord of the Rings series by J.R.R. Tolkien, of course. Favorite science fiction, that's hard. I would probably say Endymion and Hyperion.
Oh, me too.
You don't know what I'm talking about.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Hyperion, it's a trilogy by Simmons, I think is the name of that author. Those are pretty good. But yeah, I'm always constantly consuming that stuff. I have to read to fall asleep unless I'm already half on the couch. So, but if I get to bed and I am not just recently passed out on the couch from watching TV with Barb, then I need to read before I go to sleep. And I typically, through just reading before bed, I will finish a book every 3 weeks or so.
Okay.
And I'd never read anything related to nutrition or training or exercise science or coaching or bodybuilding.
A lot of people say that it has to be fiction to get their brain out of what the hell's going on in life.
Yes, definitely.
Interesting. Your shows too, right? Now I think about it, you don't do reality shows or
God, I hate reality shows.
Real humans.
No, reality shows are terrible. They're the worst thing on the planet.
Yeah, but documentaries are great.
Documentaries can be great, yes, because they are actually
reality shows.
Well, they're actually on topics. They're not just I want to pretend my life is interesting and this person who's terrible. Yeah.
So is that what you would say you're addicted to? Because that's our next question: hobbies, and then shit that you're I can't stop doing this and I love it right now. What do you love right now?
I mean, my life is the addiction of bodybuilding and powerlifting. I mean, it's my PhD.
Yes. I love it.
Training. Yeah. I mean, people say, Eric, you do so many things. And I'm like, yeah, sort of. But let's be honest. I compete in powerlifting. I compete in bodybuilding. Yeah. I did a master's in bodybuilding. I'm doing a PhD in powerlifting. I coach bodybuilders and powerlifters. I go speak about bodybuilding and powerlifting. So, yeah, I mean, that's all I do.
I think can I soapbox for a sec and how much I love that?
Get on your clean box of soap.
Because I get that a lot too, where people, when I go talk to people I knew back a few decades ago or whatever, I'm not that old, a couple decades ago, whatever, and they're like, man, you're so lucky you get to train so much, or it must be so nice, but you're like, but you created it. And I love that, is like you created a life around the things that you love so that you're able to do that. Like you don't have to ask people what the answers are, like you made it your career and your life's work to research the answers to the things you want to know. And I just want to commend you for that on my clean box of soap.
Well, thank you very much. That's some very clean, rectangular shaped statements that you made that are very complimentary.
I just love it.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, well, because you made it. Like you created the life that you wanted so that you get paid to do the things you love. And a lot of people wish they could do that or wonder why they can't. And it's, I think people forget that your career choices are you as an athlete. Like people are like, I don't have the time. I have kids and this mortgage. And it's like, well, you kind of chose the kids and the mortgage, and that's why you don't get the time to work out as much as you would like. Or
yeah, I
anyways.
think. Yeah, no, I would agree, and I think
nothing's wrong with kids and mortgages, by the way. I need to say that, but it's
no,
just,
and they're not the only things. Yeah, they're not the only things that'll prevent you from training as much as you want. Like I haven't been able to train as much as I want because of my certain parts of my PhD.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think whatever your priorities are and your goals are, just don't compromise. There's a lot of things to compromise with. Like you compromise in relationships, you compromise with reality. Some things that you might say you just simply cannot do, or you can't control them.
Yeah.
You compromise with your decision to compete in a subjective sport.
Yeah.
Where you just have to accept what happens is not in your control. So, but in things you can control, my advice to anyone and my life philosophy has been never compromise. Because I've seen very close loved ones of mine not be happy and always be slightly not liking where they are and looking backwards and having regrets or wondering what could have been or thinking it's too late because they at some point compromised out of fear or being what they would probably describe as pragmatic, but I think is defeatist.
Yeah.
So yeah, for me, it was just a matter of I kind of realized that no one's ever failed until they gave up, and I just kept pushing towards what I wanted and rolling with the punches until I got to and getting to where I want to be. So I'm not necessarily there yet. Right. We never are. That's why it's a journey.
Yes.
A 3D muscle journey.
Yeah, that's the kind. And it's I think the reminder there too is that like everything that you do decide to do causes you, whether you know it or not, to say no to a lot of other things, right? If you choose, like if I had chosen to buy a house right when I graduated grad school, then it wouldn't be so easy to move to California and be around you guys. Like just little things like, that everything comes with a lot of, once you decide on yes to something, you're actually saying no to a lot of other things.
Yeah, and I've experienced that I like a lot of my choices make the next choice more obvious, because you limit your options. But so long as you are staying in the direction of your overall philosophy and goal, then it typically limits you to the right options and right choices for yourself. So, yeah, I've had a rather unconventional academic career, rather unconventional career outside of that, and I think that's very much just because I wasn't willing to take something that didn't quite fit what I wanted. And in some cases that meant completely creating something that didn't exist to get what I wanted, which is fine.
Or not being, like you alluded to earlier, like not being able to have surgery because you're not in the best financial place, but you're also, that's because you moved to New Zealand to pursue this thing. And like now you're in this great financial place and it's just, okay.
That's right. Yeah.
I like my boxes of soap, but I'm going to stop now. All right, so we're an hour in, so we could keep going, or we could not. But I do want to end at least talking about our year coming up, because that's what this is about, right? In 2017, like, because we'll do this again in a year. But like, what are you hoping are things that you can talk about that have been done when we do this next year?
Well, shit, if we do this at the end of 2018,
2017,
yeah. Wait, where am I?
We're
if we can do this at the end of 2017, I think I will have some perspectives on the entire academic road that I've taken to get to where I am, because I'll be post-PhD.
Right.
And I think I will be able to probably have some useful advice to people who are thinking about what branch or distance or type of education they want to go through. So that'll be hopefully helpful. I can kind of look back on everything and look at all the different possibilities I could have done, and maybe give some insight to other people who are considering academics. I think we'll be at a very different point with 3D MGA a year from now. Yeah. I think we will be in a position where we're providing a more varied type of content. I think we're already moving that direction. We didn't have a podcast before. We'll have a better website up. We'll have a lot of more ways to get information out. We all have Instagram accounts. By then, maybe we'll all have other
Snapchats.
Accounts.
Maybe Eric Helms will have a Snapchat by a year from now.
Maybe.
I just await it so badly.
It's potentially, but I can't commit to that.
Well, I can commit to a PhD, but a Snapchat account, I don't know. I just don't know.
Yeah, definitely. That seems very logical to me. Because only one of those destroys your soul.
That's not relative. That's not relative at all, and that's a very true statement. It's the only way it would go.
No, but yes. On a serious note, I think we'll have a very different perspective on 3D MGA. We may be each of us, coaching less and putting out more content, and that freeing us up more to put out more good content. So I'm hopeful that we'll be able to supply more resources and support to the community that we're trying to serve. We've got a lot of cool stuff coming out. And a lot of thoughts that we all have, and technology is changing. So I'm excited just to see a year from now what we have given to our community and how our community has benefited from that.
Me too, friend. Alrighty. Anything else that we need to know? Because I'm acting like we're not going to talk to you in a year. I know. This is your statement, bro. This is your statement for the year. What are you most proud of? Let's talk about that.
Probably balancing everything in a way that adheres to my priorities as a human in my life while pursuing the things I want. I've kept my relationships with my close friends, you guys, and my wife at a premium. And there have been times where I've had to work 50, 60 hours or go to a different country separate from where my wife is for over 2 months, but it was always done in a way where it was, this is a potential option. What do you think? How will this affect us? Not, here's what I have to do, and it will affect us, and we'll see what happens, but very much as being considerate of the way my actions affect others. And I think the double-edged sword of being someone who's very motivated and willing to do, willing to break the mold and create a new one to get what I want to get in life, is that I can potentially not take into consideration how it affects others. And when I was younger, sometimes I could be a bit of a bull in a china shop or not be aware of how my actions would affect my loved ones. But I'd like to think now I've reached a level of maturity where not only do I think about that as the first thing, but I can actually execute, not just be aware and apologize, but prevent and facilitate better, prevent bad things from happening in my relationships or me trampling over those I care about, and maintain a very good balance to where I still am accomplishing what I want to accomplish and also, growing my relationships.
Yeah. Also, we can't forget, and not because I'm a co-author, but you are a very big-time published author now. Not just scientifically published, but the pyramids were just such a big deal for the industry, not just for, again, I'm trying to pull myself out from the author thing, but just as hosting this podcast, I think it's something that you should be so fucking proud of.
I am. It changed everything about my life. I would not be able to have 4 clients if the pyramids weren't as successful as they were, and they wouldn't be as successful as they were if we hadn't done a damn good job with them. And, they snowballed like multiple times to where, we would hit a pocket of people who would all love it and recommend it to one another. And, we did a fair amount of hustling, but I think people may or may not understand, because I hear some people be very detrimental about the marketers or the promoters and, they all just know how to market things, but you can't market a piece of shit,
Yeah.
It just ends up imploding on itself, or you have to target a very, transient audience, which we're not. We're targeting highly experienced, in the game kind of, bodybuilders and coaches with our books, and they've done very well. And I am proud of that. And I hope to continue to improve them with second and third and fourth editions down the line. So, and I have to big thanks to you and Andy for that as well, because they wouldn't have even been done. So
I knew that was coming, but I wasn't fishing for that. But it's just,
you caught a big fish, and that's all.
It's just,
you just need compliments.
No.
Everyone who's listening, Andrea survives on compliments. It's all she needs. You just got to compliment her, and she's happy. It's so not true, but it's funny seeing you get so mad about it.
No, but it's the reason that, because it's funny, I came across that email, or Brandon and I was looking for some other email, and the question, like I have the email where it's like, hey Eric, it's Andrea. So you're great, and these pyramids are great, and like we should really do this, and like it's so like, I don't know, pedestal-y. Like I know you hate, but it's how it was.
Yep.
And it's just, it's fucking awesome. I knew we'd sell a lot, but I think it's just fucking incredible what you've done.
Yes.
And I want to say you. It's not just me. I swear, listeners, I hope y'all know me by now. But I'm so proud of you.
Thank you very much. And I'm proud of you as well.
Damn it.
And we're allowed to be proud of each other.
I know. You. Okay.
But no, I they've done better than well. So,
yeah. Anyways, you've done a great service to the industry, my friend. I
Thank you.
look forward to the next year.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Me too.
All right. Well, I'm done with you. I'm really proud of you, but I'm like tired and stuff. I'm just kidding. No, I am proud of you, but I think we did a good job.
Word.
All right. Have a good week. See you.
You too. Bye-bye.